How's it going, all you mentees? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your breaking news in the world of the Marvel collected editions. Today we're going to be talking about two brand new Omnis in May and in June of 2026. So let's go, bub. This video is sponsored by Marvel Comics, so thank you so much to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advance notice of both of these Omnis coming out in 2026. Smash that like button, please, and share our video. Let others know where you get your breaking news in the world of the Marvel collected editions. All right, two new Marvel Omnis. And also, I did say that let's go, bub. So that was a big hint, right? Because, well, Wolverine is part of this team in both eras. And I'm not talking about the Avengers. I'm talking about X-Men. So let's go ahead and talk about the first book. One of the most wanted Omnis that you all voted for. Actually, both of these were in our top 60. So thank you all so much for voting. But officially coming out in May of 2026 is X-Men, the Trial of Gambit Omnibus. So let's take a look at that standard edition cover. You know what the standard edition cover was going to be. Of course, it's going to be Joe Madureira's cover, who was the artist on Uncanny X-Men at the time. Now, what exactly is going to be collected in here? Collected in here is Uncanny X-Men 341 to 350, the -1 issue. Adjective is X-Men 62 through 64, the -1 issue, the Imperial Guard 1 through 3, Psylocke and Archangel Crimson Dawn 1 through 4, Gambit 1 through 4, that's the 1997 series, Bishop, Xavier Security Enforcer 1 through 3, Marvel Fanfare 4 through 5, Longshot 1, and material for Marvel Valentine Special number 1. The Marvel Fanfare stories, those are the issues that feature Longshot, so that's really cool that it's a continuation. And they also feature Dazzler and Spiral, if I'm not mistaken. So, yes, this is a continuation of the Uncanny X-Men, the Onslaught Aftermath. And this has a lot more in there and some stuff that has never been collected. So, you do have stuff in here from Scott Lobdell and Steve Siegel and Melvin Ruby, Ben Robb, and also Chris Bachalo, Brian Hitch, and as I mentioned, Joe Madureira doing some of that, actually the majority of those Uncanny X-Men issues, as well as Carlos Pacheco doing some of the artwork in here, and Salvador La Roca, and Steve Epting, and John Ostrander working on these particular issues, Klaus Janson and Howard Mackie. So let's talk about that direct market cover then. The direct market cover is supplied by the legendary Carlos Pacheco, who, as I mentioned, was doing some of the artwork in here for Adjectiveless X-Men. So, the stuff in here that hasn't been collected, like the Imperial Guard miniseries, has never been collected. That's the Brian Augustine series that features, of course, Gladiator and Mentor and Electron, Earthquake, Oracle, Nightshade, and Flashfire. Just to name a few of those characters, but also features the Avengers, too. We've got the Crimson Dawn storyline in here, which is the Psylocke and Archangel story, but also features, of course, Gomur and Logan teaming them up, and then the character of Tar showing up through here. Gambit by Howard Mackie shows another adventure of Gambit. He had written the first miniseries with Lee Weeks. This time around, he's teamed up with Klaus Janson. And of course, when Gambit's involved, so is the Guild of Thieves, and so are the X-Men. A follow-up to XSE is Bishop XSE. So good to see this series finally collected. And not only Bishop returning, but also his sister Shard, and Malcolm, and Randall, and Hecate. Are some of the characters that will be appearing through here. And then the Longshot one-shot by J.M. DeMatteis, that I don't think that's been collected anywhere. So a lot of this stuff, has been collected before in a trade paperback, but a lot of these like little mini-series, they are putting everything in there. And yes, if you're wondering where it goes in the reading order of X-Men, this follows right after the Onslaught Aftermath and before Operation Zero Tolerance. And you'll have an issue in here with Marrow in there that is part of the Operation Zero Tolerance, but it can be read at any time. Also, the first appearance of Maggot through here. All right, that is the very first book, and that's the one that's coming out in May. Let's talk about the next book that is coming out in June. This is a big one because this is a series that has been collected in trade. They did the X-Men milestone books, of course, oversized hardcovers, but all of those have been out of print. And there's so much of this era that needs to be collected. So I hope it's the beginning of something wonderful. And what am I talking about? Coming in June of 2026, it's my absolute pleasure to announce X-Men, the Messiah Trilogy Omnibus. That's right. The Trilogy is coming out in Omnibus format. The one that you all wanted. All of it coming out in one big book. So let's take a look at that standard edition cover. And the standard edition cover is supplied by David Finch, who was actually doing some of the artwork in here during the Messiah Complex storyline. So, what exactly is going to be collected in here? In here is going to be X-Men Messiah Complex one-shot, Uncanny X-Men 492 to 494, 523 to 525, X-Men 205 to 207, New X-Men 44 to 46, X-Factor 25 through 27, X-Men Messiah Complex Mutant Files one-shot, X-Men The Times and Lives of Lucas Bishop, 1 through 3, Cable 11 through 15, X-Force Cable Messiah War one-shot, X-Force 14 through 16, 26 through 28, X-Men Future History, the Messiah War source book, The Second Coming Prepare, and The Second Coming 1 and 2, New Mutants 12 through 14, X-Men Legacy 235 to 237. So we are looking at the Messiah Complex, the Messiah War, and Second Coming. The three big events put into one book. And oh my gosh, it's just awesome. I mean, it is an event omnibus, so that is something to keep in mind. This is, of course, the stuff that was built around the Kyle and Yost series that kicked off that X-Force series. And then, of course, the hope, if you will, for lack of a better word, that the mutants might be returning again after the events of House of M, that there could be more mutants out there somewhere. So finally, all of it collected in omnibus format. And really, I think the X-Men Hellhound, I think, might be one that's missing in the part of the Second Coming Revelations. I think is some of the things that they could add in here. Or I guess some of the Manifest Destiny stuff. But anyway, let's look at our direct market cover. And your direct market cover is supplied by Adi Granov, who was doing a lot of the covers for the Second Coming series. So in here, you are going to find the work of Mike Carey. You're going to have Ed Brubaker writing a lot of the stories in here, Peter David, and Craig Kyle, Chris Yost, and then artwork from Billy Tan, Chris Bachalo, Humberto Ramos, Scott Eaton, and Clayton Crane. Oh man, Clayton Crane's artwork during those X-Force issues are just phenomenal. Ariel Olivetti, just to name a few of the creators behind the scenes. And then, of course, this big event that has like the return of Mr. Sinister and the Marauders and all these other mutants, like all of it just in that first part with the Messiah Complex and then the Messiah War. I don't want to spoil it, but it's all about this baby, Hope, and trying to survive with Cable and where Cable has to take her and who is chasing her. And then, of course, all of it coming together for Second Coming with the return of a big villain from the X-Men's past. So I am so happy to see that coming out in an omnibus format. But those are your two announcements for this round. X-Men related, of course. I did the big X symbol. You should have known what it was. So I'm so happy to get to announce both of those. Big gap fillers in this era of X-Men. And hopefully the Messiah trilogy will lead into like an X-Force omnibus one day. I'd love to see that era collected. I love that X-Force run. But that's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there and make mine X-Men, baby.